I used to think my best friend just needed help. Turns out, she wanted my husband. And when she couldn't have him, she tried to steal my daughter instead. That's when I learned some people don't love you, they study you. My name's Lena, and if you told me 2 years ago I'd end up in court against my best friend for trying to kidnap my baby, I would have laughed in your face. I mean, that kind of stuff happens in Netflix shows, not to people like me. But real life has a twisted sense of humor. My husband, Ethan, and I had been together since we were 15. High school sweethearts, married last year, one baby girl, Mila, our tiny miracle. We both came from broken homes, so we'd promised each other we'd do better. Be better. And for a while, it felt like we were winning at life. We had a small house, a loud dog, and a dream that felt honest. Therefore, when I met Carla, she slid into my life like it was meant to be. She was the fun one, spontaneous, talkative, studying psychology, always quoting some random fact about attachment issues. At first, she didn't like Ethan. She said he was clingy, that he tried too hard. But I brushed it off. People misunderstand Ethan a lot. He's bipolar type 2, on the autism spectrum, and sometimes misses social cues. He's also the kindest man I know. So, I told her, you'll get used to him. He's just him. She smiled and said, sure. I should have noticed the way she looked at him then. Curious, analytical, like she was taking notes. At first, everything was normal. Carla would come over for drinks, movie nights, local fairs, just normal young couple stuff. She was my best friend, and she felt like family. But when I got pregnant, everything shifted. I remember that moment clearly. I was 8.5 weeks along, sitting in a doctor's office trying not to cry. Ethan was shaking with excitement. Me? Terrified but happy. When I told Carla, she smiled, hugged me, and went weirdly quiet. Wow, she said, you're really doing this. It wasn't excitement. It sounded like loss. Pregnancy took over my life. Work, nausea, planning a wedding, then juggling a newborn. Carla started seeing less of me, and I thought it was just life. We texted sometimes, but she complained that Ethan never picked up when she called. I didn't think much of it until the night she called crying. Apparently, her dad had been yelling at her, and she said she didn't feel safe. Ethan picked up her call, not me. He said, we should go get her. I protested. We had just put Mila to bed. But he insisted, she needs help. We can't leave her like that. So we drove 20 minutes to her house. Carla came out crying, bags in hand. She stayed the night. When I tucked Mila back in, I came to bed and found Carla lying between us, literally between me and my husband. She said she didn't want to be alone. I froze. I have claustrophobia from an old trauma, and Ethan knows that. I whispered, I can't sleep like this. He told me, just tonight. Therefore, I let it go, for peace. That night, I stared at the ceiling for hours, feeling something was off. Like my marriage had grown a crack I couldn't see yet. The next morning, Carla thanked us and went home. I exploded the second she left. What the hell was that? I asked Ethan. He looked confused, defensive. She needed comfort. Comfort. I snapped. She has her parents, her siblings, and she cuddled you, Ethan. He said, you're overreacting. That word burned. Therefore, we fought. He apologized later, said he didn't think it would hurt me, that he was just being kind. I wanted to believe him. He's always been kind. So I forgave him. But something in me didn't settle. Weeks passed, then months. Carla kept calling. 3, 5, 8 times a day. Always about how hard school was or how lonely she felt. I told Ethan it made me uncomfortable. He said, she's just bored. Don't be jealous. Jealous. I laughed bitterly. Therefore, I started sleeping in the living room when he took her calls late at night. He'd hang up and say, you're making this weird. Maybe I was. Maybe trauma messes with your instincts. But something deep down told me I wasn't crazy. I was catching smoke before the fire. One night, while Ethan was showering, his phone buzzed. It was Carla. I can't stop thinking about last time. My stomach dropped. Last time what? I opened the message thread. Dozens of flirty jokes. A heart emoji chain. A photo of her hand, wearing my bracelet. He came out of the shower, saw me holding his phone, and froze. I said, what is this? He grabbed the phone, muttering something about boundaries and misunderstandings. But I'd seen enough. Therefore, I packed a bag and took Mila to my mother-in-law's house. Ethan showed up the next morning with flowers and tears. He swore it wasn't physical, that he was helping her through emotional trauma. My mother-in-law, Ruth, who had been cheated on before, cut him off mid-sentence. Don't you dare use that excuse, she said. Your father said the same thing. He cried. He promised me he'd end it. Therefore, I gave him one last chance. But this time, I didn't let him near his phone without my gut tightening. For a while, things felt better. He was home more. He cooked. He doted on Mila. We even laughed again. But peace built on secrets always collapses. Therefore, when Carla texted, "We need to talk, just us girls," I agreed. I wanted closure. We met at a cafe. She looked nervous. Her voice shook when she said, "I think you deserve the truth." Then she dropped the bomb. "I've been seeing Ethan for months. I remember everything, the clinking cups, the hum of a refrigerator, the way my hands went cold." She said they planned to leave after he filed for divorce, and that she was going to adopt Mila. I laughed, thinking she was joking. She wasn't. She said, "He doesn't think you're fit to be a mother. Not with your diagnosis." That hit like a bullet. I've been diagnosed with borderline personality disorder years ago. Managed, medicated, stable. But she said it like a weapon. Therefore, I left shaking. I called Ethan screaming, "You want to take my child from me?" He didn't deny it. He just said, "You wouldn't understand." That's when my world imploded. I realized they weren't just betraying me. They were trying to erase me. I contacted a lawyer the next day. Ruth and her husband helped pay for it. They were furious with Ethan, kicked him out, told me I could stay as long as I needed. I filed for divorce and for full custody. But Carla wouldn't stop. She sent me messages, threats dressed as apologies. "You should just let me raise her. You're sick. You know it." I show my lawyer. He said, "This is emotional abuse. Keep everything." Therefore, I filed a protection order. But that made her angrier. She started showing up at my college, leaving notes on my car, saying, "You can't keep her from me forever." My therapist doubled my sessions. My psychiatrist changed my meds. And I really tried to hold it together. Because I had a baby who still smiled when I walked into the room. Mila didn't know her mom was being hunted by someone she once trusted. Court came. I won full custody. The judge saw the messages, the blackmail, the threats. He told Ethan, "You're lucky she's not pressing extortion charges." I wanted to cry. Out of relief, exhaustion, everything. Ruth held my hand and whispered, "You're safe now." I believed her. Therefore, when Ethan said, "I'm going to petition to give up my rights. I don't want to be tied to you," I didn't stop him. Because if someone can abandon their child just to hurt you, let them go. For the first time in months, I slept through the night. I woke up to Mila giggling in her crib, sunlight filling the room. I thought maybe, just maybe it was over. But then came the news. Carla had shown up at a restaurant where I was eating lunch alone. She walked in like a storm, eyes wild, voice shaking, screaming about how I stole her family. I tried to leave, but she grabbed me. Next thing I knew, fists, pain, glass breaking. I remember the sound of Mila's stroller tipping. Someone yelling. Then nothing. I woke up in a hospital. Broken nose. Fractured arm. A punctured lung. And the only question that mattered. Where's my baby? Ruth was holding her. She said, "You're safe. Carla's in jail." The relief hit me so hard I sobbed in her arms. Police told me Carla had tried to take my stroller, to run. If not for a stranger who stopped her, she might have gotten away. Therefore, the state pressed charges, kidnapping attempt, assault, breaking a protective order. I didn't have to fight anymore. The law would do it for me. Weeks passed. Carla sat in jail. Ethan was in a psychiatric facility after a suicide attempt. And me? I was just existing, trying to believe the nightmare was over. I moved into a small apartment near Ruth. Got a job at a law firm as an assistant. Funny, right? The girl they called unfit, helping build cases against people like them. Some nights I'd sit in Mila's room watching her sleep, wondering how someone could ever want to take her away. I'd whisper, "You're mine." Always. One afternoon, Ruth told me Ethan wanted to see Mila. Supervised, court-approved. I agreed for her sake, not his. He looked older, smaller. Said, "I'm sorry. She used me. I was sick." I said, "You were weak." Because sorry can't fix what cowardice destroys. Therefore, when he asked for another chance, I said, "You've already had one." Carla stayed in jail for months awaiting trial. She sent me one last letter before sentencing. It said, "Are you happy now that you tore my family apart?" I didn't reply. Because you can't reason with someone who built their life on delusion. Her family tried to pull strings, but it didn't work. The evidence was too solid. She got years. Enough for me to breathe again. Life didn't magically get better. Healing isn't linear. Some mornings I wake up panicking, thinking she's outside. Some nights, I still replay that cafe conversation, wondering what would have happened if I'd seen the signs sooner. But I also learned something vital. You don't heal by waiting for people to regret what they did. You heal by deciding they'll never have that power again. Ruth and I are still close. She calls me her daughter. Ethan, surprisingly, is doing therapy. He still sends child support on time, keeps distance, and never misses supervised visits. Therefore, I can finally focus on building a future instead of surviving the past. Sometimes I catch Mila watching me cry quietly, and she pats my cheek like she understands. Maybe she does, because pain leaves echoes. Even babies can feel it. But love leaves echoes too, and I'm determined to make sure she hears those louder. When people ask me what happened, I usually just say it's complicated. Because how do you summarize betrayal, mental illness, legal chaos, and motherhood in one sentence? How do you explain that the girl who used to share secrets with you also tried to steal your life? You don't. You just keep living. You let karma handle the rest. I used to think closure came from apologies. Turns out, it comes from finally locking the door behind you. Trust isn't broken all at once. It's chipped away, when it's not that serious at a time.